and have a moment of silence for the invocation. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Jenny.
Mayor Jameson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones. Here. Commissioner Williams is absent. Commissioner Jacobs is absent. Commissioner Latham.
Here.
We're here to do the presentation for the budget. We needed to add a few things, so I'd like to go on this one here. We need to amend the agenda for a second. We need to put general fund review at the top. Add HR with the city clerk and communication with the police, two separate police, and then communication. So if I could have a motion to approve the amended agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
First and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it's approved. Mr. Booth, rock and roll.
Yes, sir. I'm Ed Booth. I'm city manager, and I'm here to present a balanced budget. We'll start out with the expenses, and then we'll go to the revenue. The proposed budget has, with the general fund, it including $130,000 worth of contingency, it is budgeted and it's sustainable, meaning that this budget can be sustained next year and the following years. The total amount of revenue comes to $5,537, which is exactly what the revenue shows. And the difference really from the revenues to the expenditures is $130,000 worth of contingency. I will turn it over to finance to answer specific questions.
So we want to start with the revenues. So in the revenues, let's make one adjustment real quick. On the FERDAP grant, we have only one in there because we were under the impression that we could only have 3 open at one time. And remember, we have the 200,000 one, the 140, and then this 50. But Robert found out that we could go. The 140 does not count as one; it's a special one. So we are putting another 50,000 in FERDAP, and it'll also reflect in the Parks and Rec expenditure. So we will be going. So we'll be asking for that. So that's the only change on the revenue side. Did anybody have any specific questions concerning the revenue?
I have a few. Public Works Cemetery, it's gone to, well, you're suggesting 58,975, but our current increase is 19,000. Is that realistic for us to estimate that at 50?
That's the difference.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
looking at expenditures, or you're looking at revenue?
Yeah, it's at 78,000. You've got it estimated for the proposed budget at 78,000, and you're at the Amendment 2 budget. We'd only collected 19. So is that realistic on the revenue?
Front page.
Front page of the revenue.
Okay, so you're looking at
Cemetery,
but those are expenditures.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So the revenues are going to be your first 2.5 pages for general fund revenue.
Okay.
And there is nothing that hasn't been here in prior years. That is new to the revenues. The major difference is we're seeing increases. We get a lot of money from the state, so as taxes go up and stuff like that, we get more money. Telecommunications go up, we get more money. There is a bigger amount that's being taken out of the motor fuels money that we get from the state of Florida. It is designated for road public safety. So, so we are planning on paving $200,000 worth of streets in the next coming year. So we have pulled out $200,000 out of prior year appropriations. That's the big change. There is about $400,000 difference from the budget amendment to this one. So we put back in one FERD Act, because we had taken out both FERD Acts, we'd taken out the marketplace. So we put those back in. That's $250,000. We put it back into the next year's budget. Then wild spaces, if you look on the front page, if you look at the very bottom line, we still have basically, Robert hasn't figured out where he's going to spend another $200 and something thousand for wild spaces. So he's working, he's got a lot of projects going on right now, and so we have 7 years, and they may have something where they want to spend it down the road. But those are the big changes.
You can carry that forward, though.
You can carry it forward for 7. Yes, you can carry it forward. We have to do a report for the county every calendar year for them to tell them what we spend it on, what fund and what park and all of that. And Robert does a really, really good job with that.
Okay, tell me what the burn grant is. I know I've seen that before, but I don't
The
know.
burn grant comes through the state of Florida, and it is a police grant. So if you guys want to talk about that.
Burn grant is something that law enforcement receive each year. We haven't gotten it this year. We haven't been awarded it. But it goes through FDLE, and it's a percentage of money that goes throughout the state of law enforcement agencies to enhance or improve their services to the citizens. And it has to be used for law enforcement purposes, equipment, and so forth, to enhance that. There is named after an officer that was killed in a upstate years ago. He was watching a family. It was a drug-infested area, and he was outside watching it, and he got killed. So they named that grant after him. So only that grant can be, once it's awarded, be used for equipment to enhance law enforcement services.
Okay, thank you. And then I see that we've got some increases in volleyball fees and soccer fees. Just wondering, poor Robert is going to be working pretty hard, it looks like, because we're estimating some serious increases in volleyball and soccer. Okay. Those are the questions I have about the revenues.
And he's building more volleyball fields, so there'll be more teams out there. We'd like to go to the city commission and their budget, and basically the only difference is we increased it by $10,000. That represented the increase in salaries that was done last year.
And we have one other change in there, I'm sorry. In your operating, the operating supplies, it's at 1,000. We are changing that to 2,000.
Right, I show that there. And that's the only change that basically from last year to this year, except for the 10,000 increase in salaries. That's pretty much it. You don't really spend very much money. You go to one conference, and that's it.
No, we have, this past year, you all have traveled more, and there, as Mr. Booth said, there is more in contingency, and I know here you're seeing there's only 100,000 in contingency, and I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but in reviewing David's budget with him today, I heard something wrong, but it was a good thing that I heard it wrong, because I thought he said he needed 1.75 people in the cemetery, and he said no, he only needed 1, not 0.75. So we actually get to take 0.75 out of the cemetery when we get to it, as far as FTEs. So that money is going back into contingency. So that's where he's getting the 130 from. So just so you know why that number's different. But at this point, if you guys are gonna continue to travel and to go to these conferences, I think we need to address it now and go ahead and put money into your budget.
I think the reason it might have been high last year is Commissioner Jones didn't go to that training the first year she was in because it didn't come around, and that both of us ended up going. I think that's why it reflects.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if y'all need more now, would be the time, Jeff, go ahead and bring it up.
I don't foresee any more, any significance other than maybe Buffalo's, I mean, but no large, I'm not going to conference this year. But if we were going next year, we would have to budget for that.
Right, so I think this year it was going to be Commissioner Ladd and Commissioner, I know Commissioner James can't go, or Commissioner Williams. So, but I don't know how many, like, I think, isn't it normally 3 people that plan on going? So we may want to bump it up another $1,000 if you guys are okay with that. Just in case, I mean, it's a budget, it's a tool,
Right.
but I'd rather have it there than not. So I'll go ahead and put that to 4,000.
That's one of my favorite things on the year. No, I still have it. I mean,
Yeah, everybody okay with that? Linda? You okay with that?
Okay, we'll go to the city manager's budget. The first page is salaries. Salaries went up about 10,000. There are 2 people in my office. The only thing I see here is travel and training, and I don't expect to do any. We've got too many grants going out there. I expect to be here. The only travel I'll be doing is going to Live Oak, going to those meetings to make sure our grants are good, and maybe occasionally going to Jacksonville, but that's really it. Now, I know most managers go to a lot of conferences, but I'm not one of those that needs to. They don't need to see me. Are there any questions?
Your travel and training budget includes anything you have Drillin do too, right?
That is correct.
So you need to have that there because if there's something.
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to-
I'm saying it needs to
Okay.
be there, but
Okay.
I'm not going to use it very much.
Well, the only thing that I would say is the budget that is here is based on items that is in your contract, which we haven't approved. So we just need to keep that in mind, and I would ask for everybody to just make sure you review the contract.
Right.
Because- And we'll get to that within the deal, but just understand these have things in it.
Mhm.
So depending on how we decide with the contract, obviously, it's possible that this could change. Yeah, I saw that.
yeah.
But, yeah, it's 38, and the other one says 4,000 or something. Oh, it just says 3 here.
Yes.
38.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So I mean, so you got 3 or 4 things that are in this budget that are contingent upon us approving. So I'm just putting that out there as we go through it, just to
Sure.
make sure that this could change depending on. Let me ask this: when are we going to approve this? Okay. So the contract will be presented at the next meeting, and so we can vote on it then, approve it, we can talk about it. I'm just saying so we can approve it or discuss it, approve parts of it or do whatever at next meeting. Okay.
Right.
I just want to make sure it's there so it fits into the budget type thing, so we can get the numbers correct. Okay. And so everybody got a copy of the contract? 10-4.
Next up is city clerk. Are you going to go,
Financial.
Financial?
No, it's city clerk. In ours thing, it's finance, but
Okay.
you put the thing in the wrong, God bless the order.
Right. Are you going to come up here?
This is unbelievable.
Let's see the red of your eye.
There we are.
On mine, on the staffing, there's one change. The Angela Stone, the Assistant City Clerk, is now being, since she's received her CMC certification, her title is being changed to Deputy City Clerk, which allows a little more, when I'm out, she has a little more power to do things. And it includes the pay increases.
And what is that?
It's 8% for the department heads, and I don't remember hers right off the top of my head. It's an increase for the position and a salary adjustment, as the other employees are.
The other thing is you took this from a .67 to a .5 because you took that other part and moved it over.
Well, no, we just divided equally into for the HR.
Everything.
So we're 50-50.
Okay.
So let me ask a question on that.
Mhm.
I would say the same thing here, is you're a charter.
Yes, sir.
We have to approve that in a separate, I'm assuming there's a contract,
No, sir. I'm not under
Okay.
contract.
but that's a separate type of deal, right? The charter aspect of this is separate from the HR.
It hasn't been. I mean, it's all been approved under the same thing. I mean, we've never voted on it separately.
I mean, I'm just,
We can separate it. I mean,
no, I'm
that's,
just trying to get on the deal. I mean, I want to make sure that we don't do something here because a charter member is different than the HR. And we did this and it's working, so don't get me wrong, I'm not
Right.
a deal.
Yeah, and they've got it down
It
to
was-
50.
And it's
it's just
50-50.
easier to do
Yeah.
it 50-50 to.
Right, because you do the human resources and the other.
Truthfully, I would say HR takes up more than 50% of my time, but the city clerk takes up more than 50% of her time, so I guess overall it balances out at 50-50, pretty close. Okay, on the operating expenditures, there's actually been a decrease in that. We tried to cut back a couple little things. So overall, the basic increase is due to the salary adjustments. And there's no capital outlay for this year. And under human resources, up there it says city clerk, but we've got to fix that to personnel director. That's just a typo that we can fix. The same here, the salaries is just the salary adjustments and the raises. And there's also a significant decrease in operating expenditures. So the budget's basically the same in HR. I did add one line item. It's for employee engagement. That is for certain items like, say, we just had this retirement. We had to take it out of our existing funds to try to throw a party or something. This would cover retirement parties, the Christmas parties, if we had the money in there to do $25 gift certificates for Christmas, if we had the funds for that. It's set aside beforehand instead of waiting to the end of the year to try to see if we could dig the money up. So we know ahead of time that what we could do.
So where would you put, I don't think it would be funds. But, and Nancy brought this up, and I don't think maybe it comes to the commissions. I think there needs to be, we need to consider something as far as handing out a manual, but I also think there needs to be something in there where there's a process that when a new commissioner comes on board, that they're given a org chart. They meet with the individual directors. They understand that I'm still trying to figure out what David does. 6 years, I'm still trying to figure it out.
I am too.
Nobody's told me. But I think it's extremely important.
I agree.
I don't
think that's an excellent
anticipate
idea.
there being a charge, but I think there maybe you have employee engagement here, maybe you do commissioner engagement or something in the other. But I think there needs to be a designated, a written up process to where it sits there that they're given the org chart, they know exactly what Bill does, and they know, and they understand, and we meet with, the new person meets with each of the department heads, with you present, to discuss what their duties are, so when a person comes up here, they understand what each job they do, and then also within the course, they understand you go over personal, varying type of things as far as the do's and don'ts. I think somewhere in there, I don't anticipate that costing a lot of money, but I want to make sure that that's put in there
we're fortunate, we have 5 of us back, we don't, but I think that's a process somewhere in here, I want to make sure that happens.
I don't believe it would actually cost anything because we have paid Evergreen to do the study, and we actually have the job descriptions for each position we have. So a new commissioner, they usually meet with the city attorney and with the city manager and kind of go over things, their initiation, so to speak. We've done that in the past, but we could put together a book with a basic job description for each person, a general idea of what they do, or they could meet with the department heads, but I don't anticipate any cost of that.
Okay, I'd like to see a written thing, but I would like to see within a certain amount of time. I would like face-to-face, and this is the great here is once they allows me to do that, because I want to meet the person face-to-face and
Right.
talk to them, and I want to know what they're doing, and I want them to get to know me. So I think it would be advantageous that UHR, if the new one is voted in, and hopefully we won't have a new one for a while. But I think going forward, I think that would be
There's a reason for that. But what's your problem? I know. I'm sorry, I'm leaning back. No, I'm talking too much. I just think I saw this when you said employee engagement. That just got me to thinking. And I talked. I think there needs to be a formal process, and I think it would come in. You can give it to them. Here it is. Arrange it. Schedule the meetings. Allow that person so when they come in. I think it's extremely important to meet the people who basically, I'm going to say run, but the foot soldiers do.
Right.
And maybe the next one can tell me what David does. I mean, I don't know.
We'll try to figure it out between now and then, and if we can come up with something, but.
So.
Yeah, but I don't anticipate
Can we
a
do
cost
that?
for something
Can we
like
do
that.
something
Yes,
like
we
that?
could put something
Okay.
together. We could work with the attorneys too, and with the city manager and put something together. For somebody that just pretend like they don't know anything about the city.
Scott Walker said they just did something like that for
Mhm.
the new
Right.
attorney. So he's got a starting point for
Right.
that, which would be probably even useful to some of us now because
sure.
it would
They're
have
going
things.
to make one and give
Right.
everybody one.
Yeah.
Right.
So, just to have that in one place, and because you're the person that keeps track of everything, and you do such a fabulous job at that, and anything I have ever asked you, you have it Johnny on the spot. That would be so helpful for any commissioner that comes in, to serve, to do a better job as they're trying to figure that out.
We could just invite them to our one of our staff meetings, and then they'll really see what goes on there.
Yeah.
All the yelling and screaming. I have one question here on this municipal code, the contractual services. That's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
Muni code fee that
That's
we
Muni
pay?
code, yes.
Is that an annual fee that we pay?
Yes, well,
Okay.
it depends. There is one that we pay for their online services, that's just a
Yeah.
normal. And then I try to keep something in there, so when I send them ordinances, when they update online, if there's a fee for that.
Okay,
That's it.
because we just, a month or two ago, voted on updating that. We allocated that was okay and decided to not update the comprehensive plan or
Right.
the land development code because that's in the process of being updated, so it's not on the Muni code site, correct?
Right.
But our ordinances are current and we do that.
They're current right now, but you could adopt an ordinance next month that needs to be in the code to keep it updated. So you
Okay.
need
So
to
there's a
you
fee
need to
every
update
time
it
you send
annually.
something to them, they
Right.
charge you a fee plus an annual fee.
Yes, usually it's an annual. There's one annual fee for the online, and then if they do updates, if they have to codify it, then there's another charge. So
Okay.
it just depends. If we don't really do anything that's, just minor ordinances, sometimes we don't send them in that year.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that because I want to make sure.
And I think that's all of mine, unless you have any questions.
The attorneys aren't here. We didn't require them because their budget was pretty much the same. There is one point I need to talk about, and that was with the commission budget. It is the insurance liability. 5 years ago, it was $140,000. Last year, it was $40,000, and this year is $36,000. And that's as low as it probably is going to get with a city of 6,000 plus, 36,000 there.
So we're doing a good job. You're giving us a kudos.
That's right. That's what the insurance is telling you.
We need to curse at somebody.
Right.
Yeah, well, we have somebody that does that already. But
Continue.
I could Twitter that person.
No,
and-
no, continue.
But, okay, the attorneys really have remained about the same. Their budget actually has gone down from 96,000 to 74. We have them do a lot of administrative work, but not so much attorney work when it comes to any lawsuits, because the insurance company does that. And we have an insurance company that doesn't like to pay out, and they don't, and that's why our insurance rates stay low. And
Let me ask you a question on this one here underneath the property and liability insurance. We've got 5,000.
I personally, I'd rather have the money in there, not spend it, and then be able to move it elsewhere.
True.
I would feel more comfortable with that at 10. If we don't use it, we
Sure.
can move it rather than having to try to find it. So if
Absolutely.
everybody's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've not used it in 2 years, but I hear, and that's why we dropped it, but
Yeah.
it's fine, because it's, again.
If we don't use it, we can move it,
Then it goes to, it
rather
goes
than
back
trying
to
to
fund
find
balance.
it,
Yeah,
Right.
rather than trying to find it and put it in.
I'll make that change.
Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'll turn it over to Jennifer, who does finance.
No, not really. So, and the finance, as far as the salaries, it is the increases that go along with the study. The,
How much? Percent-wise?
it,
The accountant?
pardon?
The accountant? She wouldn't get 8%.
No.
So what's the accountant get?
Her percentage, now she was, when I moved her, she was just a clerk out front.
Right.
So she is getting a higher increase, and her increase is going to be,
You can tell us next time. If you need to figure it, because I know I'd just like to know, that's
no,
all.
I have everybody's increase. I just paperwork. She's at 11. But as I said, was lower when I moved her back there. She was on the front counter, and she has been there for a year and a half and has proved herself. So as far as my budget, the accountants have agreed to give us the same rates for the next 3 years. So that is budget neutral, which the accounting comes out of some of water and sewer and finance are the three major funds that pay for that. So that didn't change. So other than that, on my budget, we dropped a little bit in the operating expenditures, so it's the majority of it's in the salaries and benefits. And that's for the accounting, that's for finance. And then license and billing. So it looks like it didn't go up a whole lot. Actually, it went down. And the majority of that is we had some higher paid people that have retired. And so I was able to, the people that came in are making considerably less. But they're still getting the increase that goes along with the study. So that says there, we increased the operating supplies. And mostly what that is the paper and the postage to mail out the bills. We're growing, we're getting more customers. Pretty much every week we have 2 or 3 new customers. So
Where's that
that
listed?
would be on page
15.
15, and it's the operating.
And it's really only 2,000 from the budget amendment that you took it up. It's
Right.
from last year to this year, and postage has gone up, so.
Where is that?
Where's the postage at? Office.
The postage
It's
and
under
operating
operating
supplies.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it's 20,000.
I thought you were separate. I
No,
was
no,
seeing the right thing.
So there's not really a lot of change in that one as well. Let me go ahead and do IT. So if not any questions there, we'll go to IT is the next one.
What page is that on?
23.
is-
23.
Thank you.
So what, we haven't had, we've been kind of playing catch up with our computers and not actually planning on replacing them. So Eric, our IT person, gave us a list. So he gave us a critical and a high, and high potential, and both we were able to incorporate the critical and then the high that needed to be done. So that's where that 30,000, almost 31,000, that does a lot for the police department. I think some for fire. I think maybe one in, not sure whether David has one. Is Terry getting a new one, or Shirley did? Hers is new. I think one in my office, Grace's, I think, is the one that's going to be new. But now we're going to start, we're getting to a better place that we're going to start rotating the computers out instead of waiting till they break. Angela's getting a new one. That I knew there was somebody else.
What's a hypervisor?
That, next time I see Eric, I will ask him.
Because
that.
I
If
just,
something-
it's $8,500, I'd like to know what it is.
It's probably a server, if it was my
Okay,
guess.
I'd just like to know.
But I will find that out. I could probably text myself.
On the front page there, the repair and maintenance under IT is currently at 16,710, and then we're budgeting 8,000. Is that because the computers have been breaking down and we need to upgrade? Okay.
Yes, and we've had 2 lightning strikes as well.
Oh, yes,
Really?
we did.
Yes, and actually, it's so bad, we're going to actually do a claim to the insurance.
Okay.
So,
So much damage. And then the email expense, what's that? That's a new line item on here.
so in the past, they manage our email. They have kind of kept it up here, in the, where they do the communications and the wireless stuff. Some of the other, it was always blended, and he really wants the email, because you have that licensure and all that, he wants it as a separate line item, and that's why we took it out to a separate line item.
Okay.
And it has gotten more, because now everybody's got emails, we have to have licenses for everybody and all of that, so it has gotten more expensive. So in the past, he was able to kind of put it in with their cost, but that's not fair that they should be,
Absorbing it.
yeah, so it's kind of like now we have our own, and we have our own licenses, and everybody is legal and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I guess I'd like to know too, how many computers will we get for all that?
I will get that,
If you
and I'll have it,
find out.
I will have that for you, so we need to know, how many computers. And I actually have the spreadsheet, I just unfortunately.
That's okay, just at the
Yeah.
next meeting, if you would let us
Yeah.
know how many computers that will cover.
I want to know what the hypervision is as well.
Probably
Yeah, it's a high dollar one, it does lots of things. Bill, you're up.
Bill, it's yours.
It's mine.
It's yours.
Did you hear the city manager give me something? Mr. Mayor,
Good evening, sir.
Madam Vice Mayor,
Hello,
Councilwoman, good evening.
welcome.
Where shall we start? Salaries. Our salaries reflect the 8% increase. Also, this year, I'm paying 40% of a planner's salary, if you noticed on that. And that is worked out with Christina and CRA, so we're paying 40%. That increased our salaries a good bit. We go into the line items, professional services, kind of don't need it.
And that's where the money
That
came
was
from,
plan-
too.
that-
Well, that's what you're using to pay that portion for Christie.
Exactly, that was the
plan.
planning council we were using and things of that nature. The contractual services, we've got $2,500 out for that. That's a part-time inspector if I need him to come in and take care of things.
Magistrate.
Oh, that's a magistrate? I thought that was my part-time inspector. Okay. Regional Planning Board, that's pretty much the same. Training and travel, $3,000 this year. That takes care of, I have to go out twice for CEUs this year. It's my year, so here we go. And I'm planning on taking one of our new staff members and putting them through training to become a certified permit tech. The rest of it is pretty much self-explanatory, utility services. Any questions on it?
So operating supplies, you're already at 4,000, but we're only budgeting 3,000? How,
We're more computer-based now.
okay,
So we're not doing a lot of paper and pencil anymore like you were doing before.
okay.
So, and I say no a lot now, so it's really easy.
The other thing is, what about codes enforcement? I know how busy you're getting. You're getting so busy with building department and building. And the codes, there's a lot of things that people have come to me with about like non-running cars, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have anything in this budget to address code enforcement other than that $2,500?
Well, in the training and travel, a portion of that, we're going to take that and once again send somebody off and get them trained to be a code enforcement officer one of the two staff members that we have. Ed and I've talked about it, and I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen with Horton or where we're going to be in another 2 months, 3 months. I don't know. I don't know what my schedule will be. I don't know how busy we'll be. Saying that, if we become that busy, our revenues will increase. That will give us the flexibility to actually get a code person, and I talked about that a couple weeks ago. So we're kind of in limbo right now to see what's really going to happen. I didn't want to propose a budget, and Jennifer and I talked about it in depth one day, that would reflect false revenues, and I consider what we're looking at proposed from any contractor, if I don't have it in my hand, it's kind of a false projection. So building department budgets, as you guys know, we have really good years and bad years, and they go up and down. Historically, our years don't start till around January. Budget times are over with, so it's a little bit tough to predict. And we thought we would present a realistic budget. We live within our means, and off we go. But yeah, we're looking into code enforcement. Okay. It's all dollars.
I know you had your other person trained to do that, and now you're back to not having that person trained to do that.
Same path. We're still taking the same path, just different personnel.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you all.
You have a question? Hold on a second. From the audience, Bill.
Quick question. Looking at the screen up here, you have E4 says proposed fiscal year 2018-19, and then G4 is also saying proposed fiscal year. Just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I have a little header. I was already, I've had several people already point that out. I have a little header issue, and that's why this is going to be sarcastic, okay? This is why it's called a workshop. So, yeah.
We just wanted to make sure.
We just wanted to make sure we were reading.
No, you are. You are.
I need to turn it back over to Jenny so she'll talk about the cemetery.
Who's there?
No, not that cemetery. David Cemetery.
David
does cemetery.
No. Your cemetery didn't get put on here. It's all you gotta do is talk about.
You picked up the wrong one.
You see, nobody knows what David does.
David, just get up there. You're fine. You're right. Cemeteries, Jenny, you're thinking of the Cemetery Trust Fund.
Are you looking at page 45? Is that what we're looking at?
It's actually
Public
here.
Works Cemeteries?
45.
Public Works Cemeteries?
David, here.
Yes.
And you can,
Yeah.
What is,
this is Lainey. Let me do this.
yeah, come on.
Okay, so,
And my other ones too.
David, just nod when she says it if it's
I
correct. You
will.
don't have to say
So-
anything, just nod.
so on,
Yes, I'm good. No, that way I'm not.
as I talked about earlier about the extra position that I had put in there, this is only a 1.0, not a 1.75. So your bottom line, instead of being the 60,000 or 68,540, it's only going to be 37,380. So that's where that contingency money came from.
What is the salaries line on the, without the, the first line?
Oh, I'll
there?
have to fill them in.
Okay.
I'll have to fill them in.
Okay.
I didn't go back. Oh,
Okay.
wait a minute, I can tell you, 24,960.
Okay. That's
sorry.
about double what you had last year.
Correct, but one of the things from last year and we had a budget amendment, we had somebody out on FMLA,
Okay.
so their salary was basically half of what it was.
Okay.
But good question, thank you. So then in the operating, we did bump the utility services some, just because all utilities are going up. The insurance is, that's been corrected. It is the 31, because I went back through. I know you see it as being 15, but
But that's not a real number. I was hoping that wasn't a real number.
So the 31, and then repairs and maintenance, we did bump up, because sometimes there's little accidents
Right.
that happen there, and we want to make sure we're covered.
What are you taking that up to?
It went from 500 to 2,000.
Okay, because you're at 28, so yeah.
Yeah, and then the others kind of stayed the same. We did bump operating supplies and uniforms up a little bit, and then the fuel, we did bump that up a little bit because the cost of fuel's run up.
It has, yeah.
Don't go nowhere.
So
Good job, Dave.
So,
We're together. We're a team.
okay, so we're going to go to facilities.
Facilities.
So the facilities,
Hang on,
What
post
page?
page.
that is on.
42.
Okay. So the facilities, we went from a 1.0 to a half-time position. I believe you are close to
That's-
hiring them.
Yes, we're getting close to hiring one.
So that's where the big difference is in the salaries. We had somebody that
Had been
had retired. And then the administrative assistant, we had her at half, but she really should be about 65% in facilities. And then she's split, and she's in solid waste, which is garbage. She spends a lot of time in garbage, and not literally.
So glad to hear that.
Yeah, she'll be so happy I said that.
She's in parks.
And then she's in 10% in parks, yes. And so that's the big changes on the salaries there. On the utilities, again, facilities pays for most of the buildings, so that's where most of the utilities go through. And with them going up, we went ahead and bumped that up. Our phone system lease, we have paid for our phone system, so that's now it'll probably break after I said that. But so that's why there's no longer a budget there. The insurance is what it is. Repairs and maintenance.
That was because of the hurricane.
Yeah, that was the hurricane, and we do have potential almost 55 to 57,000 coming back to some different. Part of it's going to be sewer, part of it's just different areas from FEMA. It's still climbing the ladder. We still see the money there, so hopefully we'll get that. And same with your operating supplies, those two issues, because we had, in this building, we had a leak downstairs from the hurricane, and then in the Civic Center as well. That was not covered by either insurance or FEMA, so.
A couple of leaks.
And, yeah. So the building improvements, we put in a bunch of air conditioners, and we just kind of left the 5,000 in there for just that's a kind of in facilities, because there's so many buildings, we kind of left a little bit of if there's oh my gosh, something happened. Right now, we don't see anything, but we still have 5,000 in there.
Didn't you just replace some of the air conditioners?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Like in this last year?
Several of them.
you replaced
We've
some
had
of them.
Police.
one here.
Okay,
One
so the
here,
one that's on
one
the
at
capital
the
page is what you
school.
replaced. There's no number, but those
Oh,
are the
yeah,
ones.
all
Yes.
those,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Why would you put the 5,000 there and not like in maintenance or something? Why wouldn't the additional, why is it separated out?
I can put it there.
Because if she gets an air conditioner and then she amortizes it over a period of years and handles it as a capital
It would be
expense.
capital. Because if I put it in maintenance, quite honestly, it's gonna disappear.
Okay, I got no issue, I got it.
Am I
just wanna make-
It's been a lot
I
of
got it.
disappear there too.
It's a line item.
It's there.
I just want to make sure on the drills. I mean, I get it, you can't go
Then
wrong.
Jennifer's in charge of it. She holds on to it tightly.
David will go, Jennifer, can I go take from that line?
I'm tight too.
Yeah, I don't have to.
She told me that.
I got you, okay.
Okay, so, and roads, oh, I'm sorry.
Roads and
Questions
streets.
about facilities. Okay, so roads and streets,
What page?
page
48.
40. So I know it looks like we had the same number of employees at the budget amendment, which we did, as we do now. But the salaries are different. And the reason that the salaries are different is because now they're annualized. So it's the full year instead of just 3 or 4 months. So that's the big difference, the 2 additional people.
Have you gotten those hired?
They're hired and
Okay,
mowing,
good.
and they're actually
Doing good.
doing a great job, yes.
Okay.
Okay, now, as far as, okay, so the contractual services, we did leave some money in there, for just,
For, in case something comes up.
you have to
need
get
contract.
You have to
engineer
hire
or
it
something
out.
like that.
Right.
Okay.
So that gives him a little bit of money. Everything stayed the same, we bumped up the utility service.
Utilities.
The liability insurance, we bumped it to what it should be. So then, there's your repairs. You want to talk about your repairs?
We dropped the vehicle repair maintenance, we bumped it up to 4. And we took it down on equipment repair because we're getting that new backhoe this year. And we dropped it down just a little bit for trees. And everything else stayed the same. Right.
Yep, pretty
And
much.
then down in capital outlay, we got the streets, 209,
Streets are 200.
200,
No.
and 9,000 for a mower. Because we did buy one, we got one more old one that we're using.
And that's,
That's on.
and that'll be done through competitive bid.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask Mr. Booth, when I first came on, I asked about road repair. I stood up in the meeting last year before I was a commissioner and said 5,000 wasn't enough. And you said we would address that at this budget cycle. So we need to do a better job of maintaining the roads that we have. And I don't think there's enough money there to do the job that we need to be doing on those roads.
Yeah, there was supposed to be 75,000, and we'll make sure that, because we have plenty of money in the road fund that's fenced, and so we'll take some money out of that. I know we took the 200,000.
Yeah, 200 per paving. I thought you wanted, for the repairs,
That's for
45,000.
Yeah,
So, no.
normally we don't
for like lime rock and
Yeah,
stuff,
the
and
lime-
coal patch.
Yeah.
49,
That's not for,
the repairs,
this is not
road and
for,
sidewalk
this
repair.
isn't for paving.
yeah, so you're looking at the street and sidewalk repairs? That's
Road
what-
and sidewalk repair, $5,000.
If you,
That's-
if we want to, we do have the extra on the contingency that we took 5,000 already to put into the legal. If you all agree, we can put more money in here. I can bump it to 10 or bump it to 15.
David,
No,
the-
it's actually gonna cost more than that.
Yeah.
We have to do the road from the first half.
Right.
So it's a full road.
Yeah,
No, it's
there's a big
intersection.
A
section.
good portion of it, and then we have to do it in front of River Glen.
River Glen and the Kangaroo.
And
That's right.
4th
And
Street,
I thought-
4th Street is a horrible mess from
Right.
441 all the way to 27. That whole neighborhood, I walk that neighborhood. And then Patricia Gardens has got some serious road issues. These are paved roads that we're just letting deteriorate.
They need to be resurfaced, and that would come.
But I don't think there's, we can do some of the maintenance and do the railroad. But the other roads I think are going to have to wait till the following year.
Okay, well, that doesn't make me happy because last year I asked about roads and I was told we needed to address it at this budget cycle. And what we're doing now with this cold patch that we're putting in, the next rainstorm it washes out, so we're wasting time and we're wasting money. And we have to figure out a better plan because what happens then is as those holes, they just get bigger and bigger, so it's more and more to repair. David, over on, I'm sorry, I don't know the new street names. I'm
Neither
sure
do
you
I.
don't.
Give me the
Okay,
old
good.
one.
So, Fifth Avenue.
Fifth
You
Avenue.
went in where that big hole has been for years and you put the milling
Milling.
stuff instead of the cold patch, and it's held up with the rain, okay? It's not wonderful, but it's held up, and the edges of the road on Fifth Street are no longer being damaged every time somebody drives on it. So is there a possibility to start looking at doing millings in some of those really bad areas to patch
That's
over?
what we've been trying to do. We started on what used to be Southwest Fifth Avenue, hadn't finished it because I got to be out there to help them. And we've did what used to be Northeast 6th Avenue.
And Fifth over there is bad too. That
Right.
one's really bad, Northeast Fifth.
We finished Northeast 6th Avenue. We started on Southwest 4th Avenue. Hadn't finished it yet. I can't.
No, I understand, and the reality is...
We have a good pile of that stuff, and that's why we got it.
That stands up better than the
Right.
cold patch stuff.
That stuff will harden up.
Right, and it'll take the weather, but what we've been doing on those roads is not, that cold patch, that stuff he puts in the Caterpillar.
We just got a different
Right.
sample in,
Okay,
and we're going to try something else.
So-
We do have the hot pot, and we do use it. We try to use it some, but when it comes to the patching the potholes, we can't always get hot asphalt.
right,
It's hard getting hot asphalt with our schedule. Every time we've tried to, because we got on the big ones, when we cut a road that have a water leak, we got to have hot asphalt. And it'll take us 2 or 3 weeks sometimes before we can get
right.
the hot asphalt.
I think the millings, repairing some of those roads that have
The
to be
dirt roads.
repaved, there's like Fourth is a terrible road, and just putting a patch of the millings there so it doesn't keep breaking down further until they get done replacing the water lines, and there's actually...
I don't think the millings wouldn't, if you tried to use it on a regular paved road, because it takes a while for it hard up, it'll be worse than the cold patch.
Okay, but we have to find a solution. And the other
Right.
thing I'm going to bring up is we have to do something to keep these semi-trucks off of those little roads, because that's part of the problem over there is they cut through from 441 to 27, and those roads are not designed for that way. Barber's is one that goes back and forth all the time. They deliver gas over there or milk over there at the gas station, and they cut through, because it's easier than having to do a U-turn or
Right.
whatever. And those roads are already in terrible shape, and then for us to not have some sort of ordinance to keep those trucks off the city-maintained roads, go on the state and the county. That's what those roads were designed for. Our roads weren't. So we got to do a better job. We got to figure not, I know you're stretched, but we have to figure out a way to get those roads repaired a little bit better than what's been happening. So can we
Okay.
give you some more money for that?
We're going to try this new bag of cold patch. It's supposed to be a lot better than what we're using now.
Is it more expensive?
It is a little more expensive.
So then do we need to increase your budget so you can do that appropriately? So we give you the funds to do it?
I got money if you.
Yeah,
How much you want?
I'd
15?
Why don't you take the money from
Whatever's left?
the miscalculation of the personnel? which
Since it was your personnel too?
It was within his budget anyways, and take that 30,000 or 37, whatever it was.
And
transfer
put it-
that over.
Put it
Yeah,
in
well,
road.
took some, whatever is left, I'll move it here, if that's okay, and I'll match what contingency was when we handed it out. The 101. Am I making sense?
The contingency's gonna stay the same.
Correct. Instead of going to the 130, it'll be
Right.
whatever it was, and I'll put
I'm just
everything
saying,
else
you're not
back in
losing-
here.
You're not losing anything, you're just gonna shift that money that was allocated
Right.
for
Correct.
personnel, you're gonna shift it over here to road.
Then he can take and spend more money on Better Patch, and he can allocate one of those positions to spend more time in doing those repairs, that maintenance. It's just maintenance,
So
you
what
know?
was that amount again, 30 what? 37?
No, it's gonna be, I think it's right at 30, but I think it's gonna probably be another 25,000. I'm not sure till
But that's better.
yeah, that'll give him
Better than
30, that'll give him
5,000.
$30,000.
You know, I know here lately you've seen they're everywhere, a lot of potholes here
It's
lately.
Because of the rain.
But
Yeah.
with it raining every day,
You
Yeah.
put that stuff in and it washes out.
exactly, no matter what you put in there, if you put it in there when there's water in it, or if it's gonna rain that day,
And
it
but then you have those big trucks going on them too.
Right.
And that adds to it because
Mhm.
it pops it right out of there.
With that, we need to come up to the next council meeting, I guess, and tell the attorney to come up with an ordinance
Right,
that would stretch the plus on the secondary road.
right.
So let's maybe set on this, so the $200,000 for road, which roads are designated to be paved?
Would be Railroad and 7th Avenue.
Said it, I just
Sixth
wanted-
Avenue.
I'm sorry, 6th Avenue, and also up there to the park. That road also, we're putting a lot of money into that park area, and we need to put chip and seal there.
Next to the cemetery.
yes.
That's the cemetery. I mean,
Does that
our
road have a
roads are
name?
in atrocious condition.
Northeast,
And the
Northwest
next
Second
budget, I
Street.
think we need
Okay.
to-
I know
That's
what
what
that
it
is.
used to be.
I know what that is.
I just want to make sure that we're delineating the difference between the two, the paving
Right.
and just repairing. That's all. I want to make sure that the difference. So, yeah, Jennifer, whatever that money is that's saved in the position,
I'll move it to,
just move that over to the repair.
I'll do it. And Robert is next.
Robert's learned to take other people's money and leverage it with other people's money, and that really gives him a lot of money.
What page, Robert?
Sorry? 30.
What?
30.
Page 30.
And he just ordered the playground for the Child Development Center over there.
A bunch.
Rock and roll, Robert.
Page 1, or page 30, excuse me. I guess we'll just start with the staffing. It says service worker 2, service worker 2. Is it supposed to be a service worker 1 and a service worker 2? The service worker 1 would be the mowing. And in the off season, they would do some introductory maintenance. And then the service worker 2 would be a step further, more supervisory service and maintenance. And then you have the 10% of the admin assistant, and then myself.
Again, these salaries are being annualized, like the mowing person. His salary was not annualized.
Were these increased too with the Evergreen study, these positions?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Did they get increased?
Yes.
Page 31. Training and travel stayed the same. Utilities stayed the same. We've been monitoring these lights a lot better, containing them a lot better than previous years. And thankfully, it seems to be getting darker a little later, we've been able to move some practice times and avoid a lot of light usage there. Sorry, got lost. Property liability insurance, that's a slight increase from last year. That's handled with Jennifer.
Just, it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah, basically. Repair and maintenance, as you can see, it seemed we had a lower amount last year, and we basically doubled that, or we did double that. As we grow, and especially with all these parks, we're increasing the standard, for maintenance, so that kind of explains why that increased. Recreation operating supplies went up.
Hold on a second. Just tell me the maintenance so we have an understanding of the maintenance. You talking about fencing, dugouts? Are you talking the field type of stuff? Is this
Yes, it could be anywhere.
playground?
Yep, playground
Okay,
maintenance.
just wanna make sure
Yeah, playground, fields, fencing, you name it.
But it's not the buildings.
Not the buildings. That is the separate budget you'll see on the next page. We'll
Right.
get to that.
Just make sure we have that.
Yep. Recreation operating supplies went up 6,000. With the increased participation, increased programs, that just comes with the recreation operating supplies. We're also going to be, now that the fields are done, we're going to do a little more 3v3 soccer tournaments. The 5K is growing, and if I add any more playgrounds, programs. I've been thinking playgrounds all week. So that explains the 6,000 increase right there. The park maintenance operating supplies stayed the same. We finally put money in for the community garden, so that's good. And uniforms stayed the same. Fuel and oil went up. 200 was definitely really low for the mower and the vehicle we have and my personal vehicle. So that explains that jump.
Yeah.
This incorporates the fact that we're mowing now.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Capital outlay was what we talked about. The $267,000 was the county match that we have left. The $50,000 FERDAP for Catherine Taylor. Now that's phase 2, completely different from the daycare. We're still doing the daycare. We're still doing Catherine Taylor phase 2. So that whole area, that Douglas block, will be getting 2 structures within the next year. The daycare was ordered. We just have to do a site inspection before we can, and then get the color palettes, and then they'll ship it. So that will come first, and then when the FERDAP grant applies for, like I said, we still have to get funded for that. There's not a guarantee. We've got funded every other time, but let's hope we build a good enough application to get funded. So basically the 267 was finishing the county match, the presentation that I gave to the county. We still have left the daycare playground, a playground at Memorial Park, the bathroom structure at the Civic Center, and bleachers. Now it's looking like the bathroom at the Civic Center is going to be a lot more expensive than what we budgeted for. So the bleachers will probably end up taking a hit, but what we will lose in the match, we will use in the Wild Spaces money that we have. So no project really takes a hit. We're just getting money from a different funding source. So nothing's getting cut, nothing's changing. And then we have to add that 140 for the special application that I'm filling out right now, correct?
That's in this year.
That's in.
That's gonna be next year.
They might, knowing the state, they'll fund us next year, so we'll have to move that 140.
We need to add that budget revenue.
Application's due tomorrow, so I'm assuming they won't fund us until October.
And remember to ask.
Yeah.
That's gonna be 100 instead of 50.
Yep, and then the FERDAP would, like I said, be 100, which was Catherine Taylor. The second one is unallocated yet. I don't want to allocate that 50 to a specific park until I do my due diligence with the community, with the advisory board, and I wait and see on this special FERDAP funding. Because if the sports complex doesn't get this special funding, then we would definitely have an extreme need for a playground at the complex. So I don't want to dedicate that exactly yet. So that explains the capital outlay.
Do you install those playgrounds when they come in, or do they come and professionally install them? Do you have to?
Oh, we professionally install them.
Okay, you don't have to do that labor. Okay.
No.
And then we also have that 200,000 grant at Memorial Park. That's this fiscal year?
Yes, that's once again, FDEP controls that. I hate to say it, but the people who applied for this a year ago still haven't got their contract.
Right. So it probably won't be till next year.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the safest way to say that.
And then you have the sports complex. We also have a Walter Howard Community Block Development Grant that's going to include a playground.
Yep.
And you got to administer all this, and you're
so the
only going to have
CDGB
somebody
grant is
4
somewhere else,
hours a
correct?
week?
The CDBG.
That's a different. That's not here.
It's gonna be in order. And yes, we are
But he's going to have a playground that's got to go in over
Yes.
there at Walter Howard Park that he's got to coordinate making that happen. And you're
So
going to
it's
have
a total of like
person
10
helping
projects.
you for 4 hours a week for an administrative assistant, and that's going to be enough? You have a lot of work to do.
We also work with Robert and help him get. Robert does a lot of.
I know.
Great job. If everybody was as good as paperwork as he is.
I'm just
I might
concerned
have
that
to
we're
make
putting
it
too
great.
much on him. I'm just concerned that we're expecting him to be the director, to supervise those employees, to take care of all the maintenance, and do all these grant applications and administration. I'm concerned about that. I don't think that 4 hours a week with an administrative assistant is enough.
All the schedules for all.
Right, all those sport things that have to come in, all those pieces of paper where people register, and you're going to put $22,000 worth of soccer fees, you're going to have a lot of people filling out registration.
And that runs through the front.
Okay.
So that they collect the money and
But
they
he still has to organize the teams, right?
the schedule.
Right.
Right. Our master plan is to give him a new employee next year. I mean, the next budget.
I don't want him to run away before that.
No, he won't. I haven't changed
I'm just concerned because we have a lot of stuff.
I don't know if we
a
have
lot
room.
of grants coming.
We could take away from roads.
That.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There are needs everywhere, and so we went from nobody to now we have 3 people. So and then we'll look for
one of them is in addition to the mowing. If we took the I mean, I'll speak for myself and not the Parks Board per se on this, but I mean, I've looked at this budget, and I've been on the Parks Board for, I don't know, I think it's coming up on 14 years. So I've seen what's happened with the budgets. And I mean, let's just start with the persons. First of all, the service workers, yeah, his salary, or service worker 2, his salary is going up based on the Evergreen study, but it's at the lowest classification. I actually think if you're using the Evergreen study, he's starting at a lower hourly salary than someone new in utilities. And yet, what that person, if that's not true, that's great. That's great. But I mean, because he's not just service worker 2 isn't just mowing lawns. Service worker 1 is. That's not an addition. And we last year we put over $300,000 in capital into the parks, or in this budget, and we're about to do the same thing. When you look at the numbers, look what it did to this year's actual numbers. That much, everything goes up. And what we're seeing, for a number of reasons, having to do with other regional parks and recreation departments, growth in the city, growth in the young people and everything. More people are using our parks. And so what I'm not seeing is Robert spending more and more time doing anything other than actually interacting with the people that are using our facilities. The revenues, you saw the increase in revenues from fees. That number's more realistic. Robert's been conservative on that for the past 3 or 4 years, and he's blown it away because of people participating and being happy and doing and participating in our programs. Where's our delivery of service? And aside from, are we really taking care of all the facilities we have? I mean, we had tree branches that were cut down partly by volunteers that laid there for a couple of weeks because the chipper was down and we didn't have staff to go back and they didn't get picked up. There's a deadfall tree sitting up in the park right now that is leaning up against another tree, and nobody's gotten to that yet. I mean, there's so many things going on that the maintenance workers are going to be kept busy. So where is there something in this budget that helps us administrate a program? I mean, why have these great facilities? And not only aside from the facilities and the public works, we're now adding the old school is going to come under Robert. And so a lot of the dollars in the budget, on page, 33, yeah, those are big increases, but they also take on a whole new building that wasn't in his budget in previous years that he's going to be responsible for. So I'm just, as a citizen who's been really involved in the parks, and I understand and I hear it every year because, okay, the city budget this year is $5 million, but a lot of that money is designated dollars. So when you start looking at what you really got to play with after you take care of providing water, providing sewer, providing police and fire, which have been core decisions of this community, what's left that's really disposable income is a really small slice of your pie. Right. And what always suffers year after year after year is the Parks Department. It's the easiest budget to cut. And I'm glad it's early, but I'm obviously speaking passionately about it. You don't have enough bodies, and Robert doesn't have enough time. Robert should be finishing the grant that's due tomorrow morning, and he's here tonight, and so he'll go home and do whatever. But he does this all the time. And there's no overtime in the budget here. The finance department even has overtime in their budget. There's no overtime in the Parks and Rec budget, so we don't have anybody on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, ever, unless we tell them, well, don't work during the week. And yet we get citizens who come in and complain because the parks are dirty on Monday and aren't being cleaned up. So again, that's just taking care of the parks. So I really think if we want to make them a valuable asset in the community, we need to put some treasure behind making sure they're well used. Thanks.
I'm totally going to agree with you, but I'm going to say this. David has $4 million worth of grants going on right now that he's managing. I'm administrating for all of them. Jenny's doing stuff. Every one of us has our plate full. I agree, we need more staff, but we are a small town, and you're right, there's only so much disposable income. So we all have to wear many, many hats. He's out checking the grants. I mean, he's a city manager. He's out following contractors around. It is, like I said, every one of us have many hats to wear. As I said, I admire Robert. Robert and I talk almost on a daily basis about stuff, and we try to help him. My department, we help him a lot, and because we do want it to succeed, and it is important. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
The liability. I just think the exposure, just like anybody in the utilities and stuff, the things they do. But we've got these huge facilities, and the lack of oversight. What's the risk to the city? I mean, I'm just.
Less than there was, because we had playgrounds shut down, and now we have new playgrounds. And I absolutely agree also, we need more people out there. The problem is there are only so much people.
Yeah.
And as you can hear, the roads are falling apart, we have, the truth is.
I was here months ago encouraging the tax rate, and I said I wanted to pay more as a citizen.
Yeah, that's.
It's not on a long list of people.
Right.
But what I marvel at, Parks and Rec, is.
I'm sorry, but when you talk out there, it does not get them on the recording.
Just wanted you to have a break and sit down. No, what Robert has done that I'm most impressed with is the number of teams that are growing in the soccer program. In one of our first meetings, as a group of angry women came in because the volleyball courts, the volleyball thing we were like, whoa, they were really anxious about that. And now they're all calmed down. And the number of teams, Robert, the teams have grown to if you go out there during soccer on a Saturday morning, it's completely unbelievable how many kids are running around all out there. And the thing that somebody has to schedule, I think that's what we're seeing, is that somebody needs to be helping with some of that. And that's scheduling. I think Scott knows scheduling is complicated when especially you got multiple sports. You got softball, you got football, you got all the soccer kids. Anyway, no.
0.25%.
Oh.
Robert, we do love you, and you're doing a great job, and we're here to support. So, going on to that comment, and we definitely understand it is a hard challenge, but even 0.25, we've got a 0.10 for this administrative staff. So even if we could find that 0.15 somewhere to give it, at least another, whatever, that calculates out for your position. That gives him more administrative work so he can continue on growing these programs and give him the support. So thank you.
We can probably figure out half a person to do the schedule.
Well, I would suggest, I would suggest this. I would think that Robert needs to sit down and basically figure out what time is needed. And if it's a half a person, if you're looking at 20 hours a week and that person can do that, I think he has determined that you can find that.
Right.
That we can find. But the person needs to be flexible, but you also he needs to be specific in what that person's doing so they don't get pulled off doing other things.
Right.
So they're doing his stuff so that he can be out doing the
But that's where something
managing
you're going to have to basically be very specific on what you need and then make sure that person has it, because what you don't want that person all of a sudden to do is being pulled up to go help with the mowing.
Yeah.
Be pulled up help.
Well, like I said, I already know that.
So
the
if
10%
if that's the case, then I think that's something that you sit down with Jennifer and you figure it out what you need.
It's Terry, but it's just more of that's the 10%.
Talk away from here.
Yeah.
Because I think Mr. Booth has a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure that out and we'll sort it out.
Yeah, I don't want Ross coming back. Obviously.
I'm sorry, sir. He is going to come back. I'm sorry.
You're doing an amazing job in improving these parks, and now we need to give you the tools to run the programs and maintain them. And, you've done such a good job getting the parks up to a standard, so.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just where you set the standard is basically, you can set it low, you can set it high, and the only thing that suffers is
get with them. We got another, just get with them. We got another workshop next Tuesday. Get with them beforehand and come back with like an update so we know.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
The only thing left was page 33 that I didn't discuss. That's went from, it used to be the Civic Center to the facilities, and that's why you see the increases there. It went from the Civic Center. Once again, with that standard word we just used, we increased the standard because we renovated the Civic Center, so we want to make sure it lasts. So we increased the standard of cleaning, the standard of rentals and stuff. So the utilities were the Civic Center and the old school. Repairs and maintenance, I now have 2 buildings to upkeep, and operating supplies. The big jump was the cleaning supplies, chairs, tables, this, that, for 2 facilities as opposed to 1.
And this is for both buildings. These totals are for both buildings, Old School Center and the Civic Center.
Yep.
Okay.
We know who's cleaning them, right? Okay, I know we had talked about it. I'm saying we have somebody, because there again, you don't want the person who's making your schedule having to go clean the Civic Center.
True.
No, I'm just saying, I'm saying you don't want that pulled away. If we can get this, you want that person doing exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Okay. You done?
Any questions? Good.
Very good.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
And I would say, and let me just add, not to do it now, I'm not jumping on any deal between what Mr. Booth has done on the grants and what you've done on the grants and so forth. At some point in time, we'll figure out how much money that they brought into the city as a total, which is, to me, is phenomenal for a city of our size, the amount of money that you all have brought in.
850.
What's that?
850, if it all gets funded.
Yeah, but I'm saying between
all of us,
it's just
above ton.
all of it. So it's
pretty high. Yeah.
It absolutely has changed the course of our community by the grants.
So
more
we thank you.
We have impressed the Audubon Society.
Right.
And that'll become a park you get to take care of once we get that done.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll give it to him.
That'll be another park. The Audubon Society.
We've had a gentleman sitting here.
We
Can we jump to that thing first?
I need to bring the chief up first, because we're going to talk about the police department. And then he's going to talk about a special program that
Okay, I just want to make sure he's been very patient.
But we've been entertained.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Madam Commissioner. My name is Joel DeCourcy, Jr., Chief of Police. If you look at page 38, we'll start there. And Miss Jennifer, she's the expertise on wages and salaries, so it'll be reflected of the increases based upon the negotiation with the unions.
You did away with the lieutenant, added a sergeant. This balances, I'm assuming, you just finagled those positions a little bit.
Yes, sir, and that's what we did.
Okay.
Kind of put it on hold.
I got you.
Okay, we go to page 39. If there's not any questions. Operating expenditures. Major differences are the repair and maintenance of vehicles and the repair, general maintenance and repair. If you go down that line, like halfway down. Okay. And that's part of why that's why we have Mr. Cruz here to discuss a proposal that we'll get to in a little bit. And if you have any questions as I go down the line items, just feel free to chime right in. Operating supplies, you'll notice that we decreased that, and you'll see repair and maintenance equipment went from 500 to 3,000, and I think Miss Jennifer could explain that one.
Equipment, repair and maintenance equipment.
I think that's what we primarily use for.
Yeah, I mean, the 500 wasn't.
I know.
They were going over it, so we just adjusted it to actuals.
Okay. Any questions so far?
Let me ask, fuel and oil. Is that pretty sufficient for 37? You get that once or so, you understand? Is that?
We did bump it up some.
I know I saw where it was up, but I'm just saying, is that, I mean, it went up.
We're going to have to kind of see what it does, and because we do a mid-year budget amendment. So.
Okay, okay, if they're good with it, I mean, I'm just saying, I know we don't know where gas is going. I mean, it could come back down.
So, yeah, we did bump it a little over 5,000, so we're kind of
Yeah, if no foreseen hurricanes or anything of that nature. Any other questions? We could go to capital outlay, and that's where Mr. Cruz come in.
As he's coming up here, the sheet that you have on your the dais is the vehicles that we currently have, and he's going to try to have a program, but this is a spreadsheet of the years it's going to take to get rid of all these old vehicles. And it's 10 years before we get rid of all the old vehicles and have every vehicle on a rotating every 4 years. The vehicle goes.
Okay.
So the first year is 8, and that's what the 77,000 is for 8 vehicles, and then every year after that, 1 is added. And that cost is less than 1% of the budget.
One thing that we're experiencing with, if you see there's a number of Crown Vics on our car, or we have 8 Crown Vics. Crown Vics were discontinued for production in 2012. And so what we're finding is parts are nearly impossible to find. We have one vehicle at Jim Douglas, probably like 2 cars now, Crown Vics there, that one of the parts were on back order for 6 months. So we sent that part out for refurbish. That cut that in half. And so as the years come, those cars, we're going to anticipate more problems with them. And it's going to be a very big problem operational for the agency. Our neighboring city, who also had a number of Crown Vics, Alachua, they went forth and got rid of all those Crown Vics.
So that's your first target, is to get those off?
The eight vehicles.
Okay.
All the Crown Vics will be
Okay.
gone.
Okay.
Or they'll be used, they'll be used like David could get
somewhere else.
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
And what we have done also, some of our old cars that we have them down at Gainey's Towing using parts for those Crown Vics, but we have pulled
mostly all the parts out for those cars, so it's become a very complex.
Okay.
All right, so I'm with the Bancorp Fleet Leasing and Management, and what we're proposing is to lease police vehicles fully equipped with the equipment, the lights, the graphics, for, I believe we talked about 4 years. And I've given two options to the city. One's a dollar buyout, and one is a buyout with a residual value. The residual value is what we've determined the vehicle would be worth in 48 months. At that point, the city owns the vehicle at the end of the lease, for either the dollar buyout or for the residual buyout. I proposed to them that you cycle the vehicles out every 4 years and keep them under maintenance or under warranty longer. After 4 years, 80,000 miles, 100,000 miles, vehicles start incurring more maintenance costs. There's constant updates for safety in vehicles, fuel mileage. So all in all, by keeping a fresher fleet on the road, you would have lower fuel costs, better safety for the officers, and better morale as well for with our first responders. And what we're proposing is that I'm not sure if you discussed the dollar buyout or the residual.
This is on the residual.
On the residual.
Yeah, the dollar buyout would be if you were going to keep the vehicles. But I think Chief had thought that rotating them out every 4 years. Because I think if you keep the vehicles, we're going to be right back into the same situation we're in now, where we're going to try to keep them for too many years. And then, so these rates are based on them.
We'll take them back. There's not a question at the end of the
Well,
4 years.
what they have them, what they sell them for, because it's pretty, I mean, what they say is like a 4-year vehicle you can sell for $8,000 or $9,000.
Who sells it?
So we can facilitate the sale of the vehicle. That's part of what we do. It's all inclusive. We will acquire the vehicles, the equipment, pay for all that up front. The city would not start paying until the vehicle is actually on the road. And it is an open-end lease, so whatever we determine for the ending value is what the city would have to pay to own the vehicle at the end of the lease.
Or they recycle it at that point.
They take the vehicle back, or you sell the vehicle, right?
We will sell the vehicle, but on an open-end lease, whatever we determine the ending values of the vehicle is what the city would have to pay. So if we say a residual value is $5,000 and we sell the vehicle for $6,000, the city gets $6,000. If it sells for $4,000, the city still owes.
But you guys do the selling.
Yes.
They manage the selling, and as I said, when they value the vehicles, they value them low. So it's not like.
Right, we put a conservative value on the vehicle.
In 4 years, it's going to be worth $15,000. That's not realistic. So the values was used
are based on police use, police vehicles, and their conservative values based on the market, current market. It's what we do day in and day out, so we're pretty good at determining the ending value of the vehicles.
And then how long is the warranty coverage on these vehicles?
So powertrain warranty is the factory warranty, whatever it covers. It's usually on Dodge products, I think it's 60,000 miles. Over 60,000 miles. Same with the Fords. And then it's 3 years, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper. So it's whatever the factory warranty is. That allows you to go to whichever dealership to get the warranty work done. It's just a matter of not holding on to those vehicles for so long that now you're paying maintenance that's not budgeted for on older vehicles like these Crown
But that
Vics that
should
he's talking about.
considerably drop the maintenance by getting them out of
Yes.
there, because if you have a 3-year warranty, you have minimal maintenance, you have oil changes, brakes. Yeah.
I think right.
Right.
We're way over on our maintenance if you look at
Yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah. And so it's $77,000 for this first year, and then how does that annually
So then
increase
each year it'll go up.
in addition?
Yeah, so what we'd like to present is one car each year. So that's gonna run you, depending on the vehicle, I think, y'all are gonna go with the Dodge Chargers for about $9,000, which is less than about 0.8% of their whole budget. But it's a lot.
Mhm. So this year it's 77, it'll go up 0.8 next year.
Right, so it'll be about 80. At some point, it's gonna be, you got 15 vehicles, it's gonna be about 140-something thousand.
Right, right. So year two, we have 15 vehicles, so you got 140,000 going out a year. You got 9 and 8, you have 60.
Yeah, it goes up, and we have all of them, but we're gonna be using all of them. At year 10, we have 15 vehicles that are 4 years or less
Mm-hmm.
in age.
And then what's our cost then?
And be about probably, I can't estimate what
Right.
in 10 years,
But
based
on
the
today's
current-
rate?
Today's rate, it'll probably run us about 140,000
A year.
a year
Okay.
to keep vehicles.
And that absolutely is good because you don't have these maintenance issues. Long term, I mean, we have a lot of old vehicles here. We just have to make sure that we can accommodate that ongoing commitment annually, with the budget that we have.
We want to make sure that we can respond to calls, but recently it's Friday, one of our cars had to be towed
That's not good when we're having your cars towed.
in service and responding to calls.
And then what happens? Your officer's stranded with a car.
Correct.
And someone has to come get him.
Correct.
And you have to go
Somebody
find
else
another
has to
car.
take care of the call.
Okay. Okay, that's not a good situation.
And, we did try to do the purchasing 2 new cars, or 2 cars every year. We're never going to get out of that hole because, we have 15 people, plus you need at least a reserve car. So you're talking every 8 years you're going to get a car. But instead of every 4 years, you're going to double it.
Yeah. And we've been spending, you had $35,000 this past year. Is that 2 cars?
We had only budgeted them for 1.
That was 1 car.
Yeah, because it runs with all the equipment, 40?
That was, a little over 40.
A little over 40 with all the equipment.
Okay. So essentially, we're getting 8 cars for $77,000. That would cost us $40,000 if we purchase them outright. We're going to pay them.
We purchased those 8 cars outright.
Mhm.
Cost us $320,000.
Right, $40,000 each.
$40,000 each.
Okay.
I'm not much on leasing.
I just had a quick question. Is there any difference to the cost of the city if a car's totaled 5 months after a lease starts and versus 5 months after the trial?
Yeah. So the insurance, basically, whatever's paid down prior to that, we would, it would be whatever the balance is owed is what would be owed to as the insurance company to the bank. So every year that the car is paid down, I mean, that's what's owed, that's what's left on the balance for the bank corp, and that's what we would look to recover.
And if there was any deficit, then the city would be responsible for the deficit.
Correct.
Between the insurance payment and what our obligation to you is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And basically what you're doing is you're paying for the use of the vehicle as you go. Instead of putting all the capital down on a depreciating asset, you're paying for that as you go along. And these guys use their cars every day. They're wearing out from the minute they hit the road. So, it gives you the opportunity to try to find a cycle pattern of when is the best time to get rid of those cars and get as much back on the sale of the used vehicle. And that should offset the cost of leasing as well as maintenance. And the city still owns the vehicles and the equipment at the end of the lease.
You're gonna get 8 cars, for sure.
It takes care of all the crown
So
tax.
it just explained to me, because I'm not in this one here, so you're gonna have 8 cars, so at some point in time, then you're gonna have to swap out 8 cars.
Correct.
Right, that's what we're saying, so every.
For a year.
Every
Then
year.
every year after that, you're gonna do one, because you're only adding one. So every 4 years, you're swapping 8, and every other year, you're only doing 1. Yes, no?
I didn't discuss the times of swapping out with the vehicles.
First year we're having 8 vehicles. We're paying for 8 vehicles. Next year we're paying for 9, 10, 11. So they get on a cycle. But some years we get 8 new vehicles. Some other years we're only gonna get 1.
Right, but, no, I'm just saying on a rolling deal,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
4 years or whatever the deal is,
Yeah.
you got a plan, it's hammer time.
Right, and then you look at the cars that are starting to incur maintenance, and those are the ones that you trade out into a new lease.
And, potentially too, we have the option, if you have somebody, say, a school resource, he's got one of the cars, say he has one of the cars, his 4 years are up. That car only has 25,000 miles on it. He's saying, okay, it's $9,000, we're gonna, we don't have to try to sell and turn it in.
So it's not, okay, so it's not a mandatory when you hit the 4 years, depending on the deal
You
to
can
do
buy the
it.
vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, at the 4 years, it's up to you whether you want to keep the vehicle or
Right,
not.
and we cheap and everything.
First time
You know how hard it is.
Okay.
Anyway, we talked about that, because potentially, especially with school resource officers, how many miles, so, and also on chiefs and deputy chiefs, vehicles too, potentially they may keep theirs.
Right, because they don't get the wear and tear that the daily.
But we wanna make sure we've got the officers on the road,
Mhm.
don't break down and get towed.
Right. And at the 4 years, you can make an assessment what your needs are then as far as replacing the vehicle, keeping it. Any equipment that can transfer over. If you're going to get a new vehicle, we'll transfer over any equipment to lessen the cost of the equipment for the vehicles, which I think we talked about, transferring maybe some of the radios and whatnot to lessen that impact of cost.
Well, if you just look at the $35,000 for the one car and the additional $25,000 we're spending a year on maintenance right now, you're already at $60,000 a year, just replacing one car and maintaining. And these guys are going to die. There's 2003 car in service, 2006, 2007. I even have a car newer than that, and I drive old cars. I think Scott's probably got one older than that.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
And will have, probably.
Antique.
Right. I think this makes sense in long-range planning to make sure that our people have the right equipment to do their job safely and properly.
I don't disagree, I don't believe in car payments. And so I'm just, so my
They
thought
can't take your
process-
truck out.
No, and I'm just saying, I have to grasp on the deal, because I don't like recurring debt. Me personally, I don't like recurring debt. I like to buy it, it's over with, and I can deal with it. I understand this is a different deal, because we want to make darn sure they have the car when they actually get in, it'll start. I'm not trying to be funny, I get it. So I'm just saying, for me, nobody else, this is just a different train of thought, because I don't do debt.
Right. And on a personal level, for me, it makes sense, but when you have,
This is a
these are
different deal.
tools that they're using, they're not personal vehicles, so.
This is a different deal, I understand. So,
And I'm right with you, Scott. That's why I have old cars too.
So, no, and I get it, and let me say this, not to do whatever. I trust you. Not to placate or whatever, but I've always said in this position, I yield to the experts. That's just the way I do things. If you guys are sitting there and this is something, you've done this for a few years, this is something that is advantageous for the police department to operate, then I can change my personal feelings. I'm not trying to preach, I'm not on this one here, but I'm saying I've just been very adamant about that. So but I understand the significance of the specialty with works here. So the old dog, I guess, can learn a new trick. So. Okay.
We're not voting on this tonight
No, you
anyway,
can't.
so.
I think it's a good planning. I
Yeah.
think you're doing good planning. I think you're looking to the future, and you're putting together a self-sustaining program. I think this is a good decision to start looking at this now and make a decision moving forward. For sure.
And that's the thing with police vehicles is you don't just buy them and you're done. You're going to constantly need to be in, the latest, safest vehicles for the citizens. And it's not the first municipality we've done this program with. That we have tons of references throughout the state. So just food for thought.
Wants to say something.
Sure.
Okay, you want to say anything? You want to say anything? Okay. Now, I asked if she wanted to say anything.
I couldn't see, so I'll just.
Well, I actually just wanted to confirm, and I think you just said the same thing. Where is this being done, like, in other municipalities, or where is it being done? And I know a lot of road trucks and different, corporations that have a lot of trucks on the road, stuff like that. So is that where you do that with also, as well,
Yep.
with cities and things like
We
that?
do.
And how
We
is
have
it-
different sections. We do commercial and municipal. So municipal, we do public works, we do garbage trucks, fire trucks, equipment, generators. It's not just vehicles. So anytime you have a need for any type of equipment or other parts of the municipality that need vehicles, we do that as well. And we do it throughout the state, and it's being done nationwide.
And so what's the benefit that you would use as your selling point? What's the benefit behind it?
The benefit from the police standpoint is that they're in newer vehicles that you don't have to worry about them breaking down all the time. That they're actually, you make a call and you need them there. You don't want to worry about a 2006 vehicle making it to your house to help you out. And then the benefit also is that you don't have to put all the capital down to buy these vehicles up front. The equipment, the vehicles, the graphics, the lights, it's all very expensive, and you're essentially paying for the use of the vehicle as you go along.
I would think, and I'll contradict myself on this one here, I would think it would also, from a budgeting standpoint, that you would be able to project out and you would know ahead of time, not waiting for, sit down, Ross. Not waiting for 3 cars to crash, so to speak, and then you got to go get it. You could basically build this into your annual type budget because you would know, you could project it out, and it would be easier to project budgetary numbers as opposed to, I hope we get through another year with this car before we have to get one. Okay, I'm killing myself.
I'm
Like
so
you said,
proud
this
of you.
This is a different situation, totally.
Yes. Ross, you want to say something?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add is until Mr. Booth came in as city manager, the issue over cars in the police department has been one of the worst issues this city battles every year. They've done everything from cheat the officers to tell them they have to drive their own private vehicles in. They're going to do car sharing. The maintenance was terrible. The budgeting is terrible. And if you're buying cars, it becomes something that gets kicked down the can until there's a better year. And this puts the city in a position where they'll actually ensure that in the same way you want to replace bunker gear on a regular basis because it becomes outdated, or bulletproof vest, you have new cars.
Agreed.
And it's the smartest thing, put the city into this position where it's committed to this kind of thing, and that's a good use of money and actually having the officers show up.
Thanks, Ross. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Nancy? You good?
No, I'm good with it. I think it's good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think you got it. I don't think they have.
Communications?
Anything on
It
communication?
looked like it was about the same, right?
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Right. They are determining.
Negotiations went well.
They are.
Actually, we haven't met that, but
Yeah. They have determined that a large city is 10,000 and above. It's not 6,000 and above, and so the cost will remain the same.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am. There was, yeah.
That's
And
wonderful.
I'll tell you why some other time. But for a city that's just over 6,000, we maintain both a fire department and a police department, and there is no other city in Florida that does that. And because we're starting to grow, the ad valorem is coming in there, we're going to be able to afford it more and more. You know, what has been the cost has been the roads and the parks and things like that. But now we're being able to put more money into those kind of ventures. And we'll be here next Tuesday for the rest of the story. Page 2.
Any other questions or comments? Motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion. Thank you.
We're out of here. Thank you all.
Yes.